who is still out there on the market. Just last week, we thought it was a done deal to USC. Maybe not so much anymore. We'll talk about that. We're also going to continue Jimmy Stein's roster countdown, which is oh so popular every single year. So stick with us on Locked On Bama.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Oh, very excited. For whatever reason, I know it's 12 weeks from tomorrow, but that will be the NFL Hall of Fame game, which to me just kind of kicks off the new football season. Only 12 weeks from tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. Jaguars versus Raiders.
Jaguars versus Raiders. I'm down with it, man. Hey, tomorrow, or as you're watching this today, the NFL schedule, the full schedule comes out. I'm always excited about that. My son's going to be going to Arizona State, so I'm hoping to make it to a Phoenix game or Arizona game in Phoenix. And he's a big Eagles fan, so I'm hoping to go to the Eagles game again. But, Jimmy, let's start off with a guy who will be going pro next year, and that's Jordan Addison. He looked for all the world to be inking with USC just last week. Now things have gotten interesting. He's at Texas as we speak. I assume he'll be at Alabama sometime soon. He's already been seen throwing around the old pigskin with Bryce Young. What are you hearing here? Could this guy really end up at Alabama?
Yeah, and you know, I as each day progresses, I think there's a better chance of it. Now, you know, I still feel like, okay, right now we all have to bet, you know, where's Jordan Addison going? My bet is USC. And my next guess is Texas. And my third guess is Alabama. But about a week ago, I thought there was virtually zero chance it would end up at Alabama, or just barely above zero. I think each day that goes is one day more likely it's Alabama. I think Alabama makes a ton of sense for him in terms of, you know, showing off, you know, for the NFL, playing with Bryce, playing in that Alabama offense, and USC to an extent gives him a similar situation with such a high quality, proven quarterback in Caleb Williams and that Lincoln Riley offense. But I think there's a chance, and I wasn't saying that a few days ago, but I still think it's USC. I think that's been the plan from when he got in the portal. I just wonder, and I've told you this before, Luke. I just wonder. Is it possible? I mean, doesn't it feel, everybody's listening to this, doesn't it feel like the NCAA crackdown began with the Jordan Addison story? And if that's the case, if it was the Jordan Addison story that made the NCAA go, we need to take a look at how this is working out, USC could feel like, whoa, there's a little too much heat in the kitchen for us here. We sort of instigated the crackdown with this. We are going to, at least as far as Addison goes, maybe we're not going to be as aggressive about our portal rating and our money offering. So I think that is possible. And if that's the case, then Addison could end up anywhere but USC.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's kind of funny, though, that the NCAA scares anybody from doing anything right now.
Well, that's a fan thing to say. I put it this way. That's a fan thing to say. And it might even be an aggressive athletic director's thing to say. I'll tell you who doesn't say that. Presidents of the universities. Yeah. They don't want that. They don't want that attention. And the presidents are still, to some degree, here in charge. And I'm not saying this happened, guys. I'm not reporting it happened. It's just sort of easy for me to imagine the president of Pittsburgh calling the president of USC going, you're really okay with how this is going down? And USC's president going, well, tell me your interpretation of what went down. And then he hears it, and then he gets his athletic director on the phone and saying, look, we're not going to conduct business like this. We're just not going to do it. That's easy for me to imagine. I have no idea if it did.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And frankly, I think the president was okay playing, hear no evil, see no evil until another president calls him. I mean,
Right,
I don't think
right.
if your theory is correct, I don't think the USC president is so oblivious to what is going on to be like,
Right.
oh my God, I didn't know that could possibly have happened.
Well, he might have, it would depend on what Pitt's facts are. And I don't even know that the phone call happened. It's not so much a theory as it is, Jimmy, try to explain why Jordan Addison has not yet signed with USC.
That's good.
And this is me trying to explain that, now my feeling is that's exactly what he's going to do. Sign with USC.
Boy, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he either signs with Alabama or Texas at this point. And if he signs with Alabama, woe be unto any opponent on Alabama's schedule next year. I mean, and man, it's going to really sort of freak out the wide receiver room, I would think. We could really have 3 new total wide receivers that weren't on the roster last year, all 3 of them starting. And it's not crazy to think that could happen when we have some other 5-star receivers on the roster. That's kind of bananas.
Yeah, it really is. And it's surprising on the one hand. On the one hand, it's easy to go, this has to be some sort of a statement about the receivers that we've recruited to the roster from high schools. Those guys are young. I'll buy it that it's a statement as to some older kids maybe that are on the roster, but not. Look, we're not going to the portal because we don't think Aaron Anderson's no good. We're not going to the portal because we don't think Kendrick Law or Shaz Preston are good. We're going to the portal because we're assuming that they're probably not going to be ready to be our leading receiver when we play Texas A&M. We need that guy. And that's why they've gone to the portal. It's really the age thing. I broke it down on 3 not too long ago, and we came up with the fact that, look, they really had to go to the portal for 2 reasons at wide receiver. One is all the guys that left early. Mechie and J-Mo could have been back. I mean, they didn't have to go pro. They left and went pro early, and the Judy Ruggs, all of them left early. So really, it's those guys leaving early that created it, along with I'm going to choose my words carefully, but screw it. Running 2 guys off, and one guy that went to Kentucky, one guy that went to Texas, sort of got run off. And those would have been older kids, by the way. Those would have been, had they developed normally, followed the rules, there's a good chance those 2 would be in the first team rotation and we wouldn't have gone to the portal.
That's a good point. Jimmy, want to take a minute before we get back into your roster countdown to tell everybody about Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, the Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season NFL futures. Bet Online is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. Bet Online is where the game starts. Jimmy, let's get back into your roster countdown. We've had some good reaction from Twitter. People saying that they really love this, and we love it too. It's a lot of fun. So let's start with number 95, Monkel Goodwine.
Right.
What are you thinking here?
He impressed me this spring. I don't think he's yet ready for the first team rotation, but he could be. If he could be, right now we got 5, right? He could be the 6th guy this fall. It would not surprise me if he's the 6th guy. If not, this is a major candidate to be in the first rotation starting next spring. He's going to be good.
Well, I mean, there's, like you said, it's when you do this countdown, it can be a little difficult because a guy like Goodwine, we just don't know a ton yet.
Right.
I know that we were very excited to get him. I think he's got a ton of potential. I think he, boy, I hate to say he was looked upon as a project. I don't want to say that, right, but I do feel like he probably needs a little muscle, a little weight.
Correct.
And hope that he's put that on. And hey, fingers crossed, because I think defensive line is where the game is won usually. Outside of
there was a point, when we were following football a long time ago. People won't believe it now in 2022. But there was a point where if you took a lineman, he was almost just an automatic red shirt. Like very few didn't redshirt, even at an Alabama. I mean, it was like, well, any lineman is going to spend a year in the weight room before they're really even practicing with the football team. That's sort of how it was in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. It wasn't until juniors routinely went pro, kids trained year round with experts, high school football got more advanced. It wasn't until all that happened that more linemen started playing early. But no, the normal human development has been redshirt the big kids. And whenever you have a big kid like Goodwine that does redshirt, it doesn't mean a thing. I mean, there would be a fan somewhere going, well, if you redshirted, that means, they didn't think he was good. Well, Quinnen Williams redshirted. He's the best defensive lineman we've ever had, maybe in the history of the program. And he redshirted. So that's nuts. I think it's just normal for linemen to redshirt. The ones that play right away they're exceptions. They're not the rule.
Jimmy, let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we will talk about number 94, DJ Dale. And we'll also talk about Jamarian Latham when we return. I want to tell everybody really quickly before we go to this break that you need to go check out Locked On NBA Big Board. Host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and the author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin. Leif Thulin, what a name. Giving fans an in-depth look at the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and, of course, the big boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. That is Locked On NBA Big Board.
Yeah, you got to listen to that just for that dude's name.
All right, Jimmy, DJ Dale, number 94 in your program, number one in your heart. Big dude. Yeah. I would say a guy who, okay, trying to put this as PC as possible. I wouldn't say he's regressed. I would say he has not progressed the way we thought he all would. We still see a ton of potential in this young man, though.
Well, it's the knee injuries. Yeah. He showed up and not only immediately impressed. We're just talking about redshirting. This dude plays the most redshirting position possible on defense, nose guard. And not only plays as a freshman, he starts. He started the first college football game he ever played in. So there was all sorts of reasons to have high expectations here. But then he hurt every knee he's got. I mean, it wasn't one knee, it was both. And I think it's taken him, more than a year, if not 2 years, to get back to where he was. But I thought, particularly at the end of last season, he looked good to me. I think he started coming around, and by the end, during that stretch drive, when the defense was really playing well down the stretch, I think a lot of that had to do with DJ Dale in the middle, and I think he's going to have a really nice senior year. Is it going to be Mathis? Is it going to be Barmore? Is it going to be Deron Payne's senior year at nose guard? No, I don't think he's that guy. But what I think he is very solid. And boy, if you want to talk about a guy that's underrated by the fans, is the very solid guy. Fans see the spectacular and everybody else sucks. Well, that's not really even remotely true. DJ Hall is a very solid player, and I think he's going to have a really solid senior year and be a big part of the defense's success.
I do too, and I really want him to burst onto the scene. I think I've even seen a mock draft where he goes in the first round.
That's crazy. I mean, and I just say that because how is he going to test well? And what position is he going to play in the NFL? The NFL doesn't have a ton of 3-4 teams. He's probably going to have to move to tackle. Who knows? Maybe he's better suited for a one-gap tackle job. That could be the case, but I see him as a mid-round pick, 3rd to 5th round kind of guy. Which is a compliment. It's a compliment.
Definitely. And then let's go to number 93, Jamarian Latham. This is a guy that came out of a 1A school. He did get some action last year. Great. What do you think here? Is there a ton of potential here? Boy, I just hadn't heard his name a lot, I guess, is all I can say. I would like, you hear about guys that are coming on strong and his name just hadn't come out of people's in the nose mouth. That's the worst sentence I've ever said.
He had a really good spring last year and a really big A-Day, and then in the fall seemed kind of quiet. Although I need to rewind and figure this out, because not too long ago I wasn't watching the game tape yet. I'm going to do that closely soon. But I came across Alabama Georgia national championship game on ESPNU or something, or SEC Network, and I watched for a couple minutes, and I looked down, and we're in goal line defense, and I see 93, and I'm like, no, I didn't just see 93. I literally paused the TV screen and rewound to verify, and it was true. It was 93 that was out there, and I was totally stunned. But yeah, there's Latham playing goal line defense for Alabama in the national championship game against the Georgia Bulldogs. So I don't know what led to that. My guess is it might have been an injury, but it just goes to show that he's on the cusp. And I think that's the best way to describe it. Here's a kid that's not in the lineup. He's not in the first team rotation, but he's also not a guy they've written off. He is on the cusp of becoming a contributor, but this fall feels kind of like a now or never time for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the now or never clock has been moved up for everybody at every position now, especially at Alabama. I mean, if you don't show potential within the first year and a half, I mean, it's tough. Not everybody can do the Mac Jones thing. And see, it's easier to do the Mac Jones thing because we kind of knew we had a dude, but we had some real dudes in front of him. And there's only one guy that can play quarterback.
Right.
So, anyway, I'm pulling for him. I like him a lot. I like his skill set. I think he can be a thing. But like you said, you just don't have a lot of room for growth when it comes to Alabama. You got to grow up quick or you're going to be in the transfer portal.
And here's a good question. We'll devote a whole show to this. Last year Alabama took 2 kids out of the portal, walk-ons not counting. They took 2 kids out of the portal in Toho and Jamison. This year it's been 6, and we're even considering a 7th. In Addison. What's gonna be the portal number for Alabama? I tend to think what we're seeing this year is a bit of a ceiling. I think 6 might be sort of a max, I think, but we're going to find out. Obviously it can change year to year. One interesting thing, Luke, is we could lose a lot of players off this team to the NFL. And if you lose most of your starters, you got to think, boy, if you lose starters, you go to the portal, right? So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 10 guys next year, but it's a real interesting subject. What's the normal number of portal guys that you see Alabama signing every year?
I don't know. Maybe if we lose a bunch of receivers and a tight end, maybe we can get Ajay Hall and Jaleel Billingsley back. I wonder if that will ever happen, that somebody transfers out and it's just not working out here. They go somewhere else and they're like, I kind of miss you. It's like going back to an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I want to know what Ajay's attitude is about Texas having Jordan Addison around. Hey, Ajay, I mean, are your feelings hurt because now Texas, you came here to be the guy, and now they're going to bring in the Blitnikoff guy. He's probably like, why do y'all think he's better than I am?
I'm sure he's handling it very maturely.
Now,
right.
By the way, Hull and Billingsley could only portal back if they were graduates, because they've burned their free portal ride. They have to graduate before they could portal back, unless they're willing to sit out, which doesn't sound like a Hull or Billingsley thing.
No, it didn't really sound like that's their forte. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, making us your first listen. Please keep up with us. Please subscribe, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.